Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are stepping into one of the most dangerous and unpredictable topics shaping our world right now. The future war that no one is ready for. A conflict that could erupt between China and the United States. This isn't about predicting a battle tomorrow or next year, but understanding how technology, strategy, and global power shifts are quietly moving both nations toward a confrontation neither side can afford but both sides are preparing for. This is not just a story of two countries. It's a story of how the world could change in a single moment if the fragile balance breaks. For decades, the United States has been the dominant military power, controlling global trade routes, technology standards, and alliances across the world. But China has grown at a speed the world hasn't seen in modern history. Across industries, diplomacy, and especially military technology, China is no longer catching up. It's challenging the top position. Behind closed doors in Washington and Beijing, both countries are conducting war games, simulations, and strategic planning based on a single question. If conflict happens, who will control the future? The problem is that a modern war between these two giants wouldn't look anything like the wars of the past. It wouldn't start with tanks crossing borders or soldiers launching large-scale invasions. It would begin silently, satellites blinking off, communication networks failing, unknown drones appearing where they shouldn't, cyber attacks disabling entire power grids, artificial intelligence making decisions faster than human generals can even respond. The danger lies in the speed. Technology has advanced to a point where misunderstandings can escalate into war in seconds, not days. Tensions between China and the US are mostly hidden from the public, but they show up in the smallest details. A ship sailing too close to another in the South China Sea, a military aircraft coming within meters of a rival plane, a cyber intrusion traced back to a foreign city, a new missile test that travels farther or faster than expected. Every one of these events becomes a silent warning, a reminder that both sides are testing each other's limits. The world watches, hoping each time that nothing goes wrong, because one wrong move could change history. At the center of this rivalry is technology. China has invested heavily in hypersonic missiles that can travel faster than any missile defense system can intercept. The US has invested in next-generation stealth aircraft and long-range strike capabilities. China is building a navy that grows larger every year, while the US maintains alliances that give it military access to regions across the globe. But the real battlefield is invisible. Artificial intelligence, quantum computing, cyber weapons, and satellites now determine who has the advantage before a physical battle even begins. AI is transforming war faster than governments can write new rules. Both nations are developing autonomous drones that can identify, track, and even eliminate targets without direct human control. These systems learn, adapt, and make decisions at a speed no human can match. The more advanced they become, the greater the risk that machines, not leaders, end up shaping the opening moments of a conflict. No one wants a war triggered by an algorithm misinterpreting a threat, but the possibility grows each year. Cyber warfare is another hidden danger. While the public sees news of hacks or data breaches, behind the scenes both countries are attacking and defending digital infrastructures critical for survival. Power grids, financial systems, transportation networks, and military databases are all targets. A single cyber strike could shut down a city or disable communication for a fleet of ships. In future war scenarios, experts believe the first wave of attacks will not be missiles. It will be code. The South China Sea is often described as the most dangerous place on Earth. China claims almost the entire region, building artificial islands and military bases in strategic positions. The United States, on the other hand, insists the waters must remain open for everyone. Every time an American ship sails close to these islands or a Chinese jet intercepts a U.S. surveillance plane, both sides carefully measure their response. Neither wants to appear weak, neither wants to escalate. It has become a delicate game of pressure and patience. Another flashpoint is Taiwan. China considers Taiwan a breakaway province and has made it clear it intends to reunify it with the mainland by force if necessary. The United States has long supported Taiwan, providing weapons and political backing. If China attempts to take Taiwan, the U.S. could be drawn into the conflict instantly. War games show that the battle for Taiwan would be one of the most intense in modern history, with both sides losing ships, aircraft, and personnel at a speed the world has never seen before. The stakes are enormous, and so are the risks, but the biggest threat is not the physical clash, it's miscalculation. Both nations operate powerful forces in the same regions. Both run surveillance missions. Both test each other's patience daily. A pilot misjudging a distance, a ship turning too sharply, a radar system misinterpreting a signal, any of these could trigger a response that spirals out of control. In the Cold War, mistakes took hours to escalate. Today, they take minutes. China's rise has also changed global alliances. Some countries align with the United States for security. Others rely on China for economic benefits. Many try to stay neutral, but are pressured by both sides. This creates a world divided, unsure of how to respond if a conflict erupts. A war between China and the U.S. would not stay limited to two nations. It would ripple across continents, affecting global markets, food supplies, technology, and international stability. Economically, both nations are deeply interconnected. China relies on exports to the U.S., and the U.S. relies on China for manufacturing rare earth materials and critical components for its own technology. A war would severely damage both economies, but neither side wants to appear dependent. They are each building alternative supply chains and preparing for scenarios where cooperation suddenly ends. It's a silent preparation for a future no one openly talks about. The military strategies of both nations reveal a lot. The United States focuses on global projection, the ability to send forces anywhere in the world. China focuses on area denial, the ability to control regions near its borders, and prevent foreign forces from entering. If a conflict starts, these two strategies collide instantly. The U.S. tries to get closer, and China tries to push it away. Whoever controls the surrounding seas, skies, and cyberspace gains the early advantage. China's military modernization is rapid. It is producing warships faster than any nation on Earth, developing stealth aircraft, expanding drone fleets, and building weapons specifically designed to counter U.S. strengths. Many analysts believe China's strategy is not to defeat the U.S. everywhere, but to defeat it in one specific place at one specific time, long enough to gain control of the region before the rest of the world can react. The United States, meanwhile, focuses on advanced technology, long-range strikes, and networks that connect every soldier, drone, ship, and aircraft into a single combat system. The idea is simple. If all units share information instantly, they can overwhelm the enemy with speed and precision. But this system relies heavily on satellites and communications, which China has been preparing to target. Space becomes a major battlefield in any future war. Both nations depend on satellites for communication, navigation, intelligence, and early warning systems. If satellites are destroyed or jammed, forces on the ground become blind and deaf. China has tested satellite-killing missiles. The US has its own counterspace weapons. A conflict in space could cripple both sides within minutes, making it one of the most dangerous frontiers of all. The fear is that once the first strike happens, whether physical or digital, there is no going back. Even if the conflict stays limited, the global consequences would be enormous. Trade routes would shut down, stock markets would collapse, oil prices would surge, technology components would become unavailable. Every day, life around the world would change instantly. That is why experts say this is the war no one is ready for. The power of nuclear weapons still hangs over everything. Both China and the United States have large nuclear arsenals. Neither wants to use them, but in a chaotic war where communications fail and both sides fear losing control, the risk of misunderstanding grows. Leaders must make decisions under extreme pressure with limited information, while machines feed them data at overwhelming speed. The wrong choice at the wrong moment could lead to catastrophe. Despite all this, both nations publicly insist they do not want war. They benefit more from stability than chaos, but they also prepare for the worst. Modernization programs continue. Strategic deployments continue. Cyber operations continue. Each side watches the other closely, trying to predict the next move. It becomes a constant cycle of preparation and suspicion. Diplomatically, the world hopes dialogue can calm tensions. But diplomacy only works when trust exists, and right now, trust is disappearing. Accusations of espionage, interference, military expansion, and political influence campaigns create a never-ending wall of suspicion. Leaders talk, but their militaries prepare. The gap between words and actions grows wider every year. The question is not who would win a war. The real question is whether such a war could ever stop once it starts. Modern technology makes conflicts unpredictable. Traditional strategies no longer apply. Autonomous weapons change the roles of humans. Cyber attacks blur the line between war and peace. Space becomes a battlefield with no borders. The longer tensions remain high, the more dangerous the future becomes. Analysts warn that the most important job today is preventing conflict, not preparing for it. But preventing it requires understanding the risks. It means admitting that both nations are building capabilities that can escalate faster than they can control. It means recognizing that a clash of two global powers affects everyone on Earth. And it means remembering that once war begins, no one can predict where it ends. This is why people around the world track every statement, every military movement, every diplomatic meeting, and every technological breakthrough. They know the future can shift overnight. Nations build alliances, stockpile resources, and create fallback strategies, all while hoping diplomacy prevails. As we look ahead, one thing becomes clear. The future war between China and the United States is not inevitable, but the possibility grows each year. Technology accelerates competition. Mistrust grows faster than communication. Military forces operate closer and closer to each other. Cyber attacks push boundaries. Satellites become targets, and the world becomes more fragile. In the end, the most important question is not which side has the strongest missiles or the fastest ships. It's whether leaders can recognize the consequences before it's too late. A war between these two nations would reshape the world in ways we can barely imagine. But understanding the tension, the technology, and the stakes gives us a clearer view of what's at risk. The hope is that this knowledge leads to caution. and that caution leads to cooperation, even if temporary. The world needs stability more than competition. It needs communication more than confrontation. And it needs leaders who understand that peace, no matter how fragile, is worth protecting. As we watch the silent buildup, we must remember that the choices made in this decade will define the next century. The future remains unwritten, and whether it becomes a story of conflict or restraint depends on decisions made long before the first shot is ever fired. The world stands at a crossroads, and the direction chosen now will determine the lives of billions. Thank you for watching. If you found this exploration important, make sure to stay connected for more deep dive analyses into the tensions, technologies, and turning points shaping our future.